Thank you. Thank you guys for showing up today. We're really excited to have this conversation. We have a few of our details reps, Brandy, Miranda, and Samantha, all on the chat so that you can send in different questions if you should have any. And I don't know if I've been muted. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can still hear you.
Yeah, wonderful. Awesome. It's nice to see so many people. This is an exclusive webinar for only details users. Hey, Holly, glad to see you.
How are you?
I'm wonderful. Really excited to chat with you today. I'm sure everybody else is excited too. This is a really hot topic, so we're interested to make sure everybody has their contracts in order. And if they don't, they can always make changes and adjustments or additions. So looks like we have about 33 people on right now. I know this was our highest webinar attendance, and we usually open it up for anybody, but we wanted to just make this as an extra member benefit. So thank you, Holly, for joining us. I guess we'll get started in the next minute or so, because I think there's a few more people in the waiting room.
So we're in the studio right now, and there's a lot going on, so I hope it's quiet enough. One of the things going on is our granddaughter who might shriek just for the fun of it. So real life, whatever.
Yeah, we're all dealing with that, right? Everything and whatever is going on, but how lovely to have your granddaughter there in the studio. I'm sure she's gonna be very fond of flowers.
She does seem to be really fond of flowers, which is a blessing.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I guess we can just get started. This is being recorded for everybody, so we're also going to send this all to you details users afterwards. I want to thank Holly Chapple for joining us today. We've both recently joined in on Clubhouse. I'm not sure if everybody else is on Clubhouse just yet. It's a new app where you can go and listen and hear all kinds of different topics. And I happened to join in one day and listen to Holly talk with everybody in the DC area about just different things they were dealing with coronavirus. And I think one of the biggest topics was contract terms and handling contracts. And I thought, this is an awesome conversation to have amongst our users. And as a disclaimer, I just want to let everybody know this is for educational purposes only. Neither Holly or myself or anyone on our team is an attorney. So take what we share with you and create your own, but definitely reach out to your attorneys for extra legal advice. I just want to preface that. I'll probably preface it a few times during this conversation. But yeah, so we sent out, Holly, do you want to introduce yourself? I know we've been friends for a while, and I know you've been using details for, I think, just over 2 years now. And you're a wealth of knowledge. I know you've been in the industry for a long time. And please, if people aren't familiar with who you are, then shame on them because they should know who you are. But yeah, like if you want to introduce yourself, I know you're the flower mama. So let's.
And a flower grandma now, just like, oh, that word. So my name is Holly Chapple. I'm a floral event designer in the Washington, D.C. area. I actually live in Virginia, but we service D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. It is a crazy market. It's really robust here. There's a lot going on. You could be in a Smithsonian Museum on a Friday and out at a vineyard in West Virginia on Saturday. So our terms are kind of robust because they cover a lot of different categories. But, we've been doing weddings and events for 28 years. Our terms are founded on issues, problems, or, things that happen along the way. Editing and reviewing your terms is really, really important. And even as I read through my terms today, I was like, oh God, this is missing, this is missing. So I think one of the problems is as your company does grow, your hands aren't on everything. And like sometimes my husband will get in here and edit the terms and he'll take something away. Well, he wasn't on the job and he wasn't bruised in the middle of it. So like, you know, maybe somebody in our company might not see the importance of a term or two. So it was interesting. It's really, really important to go over these terms again and again and again. And all of our terms are literally from some kind of horrible disaster happening. And we immediately come home from that learning experience and edit the terms. I'm really actually very surprised to see that things are missing, because I can put things on the back burner for months and months and months and months, but the terms of my contract are one of those things that I really, really hover and watch over. I also am the founder of Chapel Designers. So it is almost 200 wedding and event floral designers. Same goes for me. Like if one of our colleagues, you know, has a problem on an event, I'm listening and I'm watching to what's happening, and I will come back and add terms to my contract. One of which, when we get to COVID, I have written down here that I'll be adding. So what I do love about the details platform is that it's very easy for me to go in and update those. And it is, you know, really crucial that you not put these things on the back burner like we do the laundry and, you know, mowing the lawn. But I would say that, you know, when I first started teaching abroad, they were like, we don't have terms. This is crazy. Like, why do you guys have all of this? And, you know, the terms in your contract are there to protect you. You don't have to be, you know, a badass hardcore. Oh, I'm sorry, this is the way the terms are, I'm not going to bend on this. You can be as generous and kind as you want to and forgiving to your clients, but this is to protect you when you come up against someone that has violated all boundaries. And then you have the right to say, oh, no, actually, I'm sorry, that doesn't work for us, and it is in your terms. So really, I rarely have to enforce them. And I think it's because we set good boundaries from the very beginning. So I'm happy to do my best to answer any questions anyone has. I looked at the 30 questions. There are some that will be a little bit harder for me to answer, but I didn't want to, say, oh, don't ask me this, don't ask me that. I'm really not like that. I'll be honest with you. But I would say these terms are very valuable to our company, and it is something that I teach professionally. We have a online course that is a comprehensive course. And so this was a lot of information and a lot of questions. So please, I'm also this is for you and the details users, because I feel so comfortable and because I love Corrine so much. You know, this is not for you to share anywhere and everywhere. This is just a special treat for you guys.
Yeah, and that's really what we want to start providing for more of our users, so that they really see the added benefits. And I think just these conversations are really important. So if there's any other topics that you guys would like us to discuss, like as we move throughout this year, like we would love to bring you that content. I did break up this into about 5 different sections. So we're going to try to keep this limited to, like, I hope an hour. I don't really want to go longer than that. And so I just want to jump right in and say, this was the first question. How many pages long is your contract, Holly? Give it to us straight. You need to keep it short? Some people only have 9 terms in their contract. Do they need to have something more robust?
So, the terms themselves. So I just pulled up a really simple contract for a very small event that I'm doing, and it was 14 pages. The terms themselves, let me try and count that out really quick. They cover, it looks like, and that's also because of spacing and things like that. It looks like the terms cover 1 page, 2 page, but that second page like is only like a few inches. And I don't know if that's something that we need to be collapsing. 3, also a half page. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I think it's probably about five pages in terms.
Yeah, so it's really interesting because we started doing some homework on this and we found that there were like 45 major terms that most people have either in or out of their terms. Not everybody has all of them. Some people only have a few of them. And we did a survey, so I'm going to also do some percentages to let you know what people find is like the most sought after. But do you ever find clients that are intimidated by how much you have in there or give you any pushback on what you've included?
No, except for when I'm working with an attorney. So
Okay.
they do like to, they're typically the only ones that will question the terms. Really, I think they actually are the only ones. The only other term that we have had a little bit of pushback on, and it's for a reasonable request, because I am, again, near DC. So we have a lot of intelligence agents or, FBI or whatever. And some of them are undercover. And I have very tactfully buried in here that I have the right to have a photographer at the event and that I may use all of the imagery for marketing purposes. So we literally have had clients that are like, my face can't be seen anywhere. And like, okay, fine. I put it in there to try and get away with it. But if I'm going to lose a large flower order over this, it's not a line in the sand that I'm going to cover. I just remove it. It's no big deal. But that's the only one that's really freaked anybody out.
Do you always have a lawyer write your terms, or do you sometimes add them in there yourself?
No, I'm a poor girl, so I don't. We write the terms ourselves. And again, this is just for us to have some boundaries. Some people are really lawyer rich and spend a lot of money on attorneys. I will tell you that I have never had the money to waste on a lawyer. If anybody's a lawyer in here, I'm really sorry. I do not have the money to waste on that. And I just, Evan will look online. Evan is my husband and he's a very good writer, and he will, make these terms as best to his ability. Honestly, I don't really think that any of us are in the position to get into a big fight over, legal matters. And they're here to protect me, but it's when someone gives you pushback, you have a really complicated decision at that point. Like, are you going to get an attorney? Are you really going to fight this? We do have an attorney in the family, and he always says it's like sending good money after bad. I mean, the truth of the matter is, you just hope that you're making good choices and getting in bed with good people, because it could become such a financial burden to fight the terms in this contract. So
it was always like a red flag for me if anybody ever gave me a lot of pushback. It's just like that first alarming moment, and it kind of set the standards. Like if they couldn't meet my expectations or so forth, then it probably wasn't the right fit.
right. And I think, being good at sales and customer relations, I can normally sense if somebody's trouble before I even book them, at which point all of a sudden I become booked. When your gut is warning you that somebody is trouble, it is 100% trouble. It's going to happen. See, Sydney, I'm saying that's what that one yesterday. Like, and if you try and push it through, you're going to end up regretting it later on.
Yeah, I have a few attorney friends, and one of the best advice they ever gave me was to make sure our contracts are written in the present tense. And it's also about the words you're using in your contract to set forth your terms that might hold like you accountable. And it's by what almost by what you're not saying in there. So I think it's good that you have a lot of that in there because it's setting the standard and can you understand from that language, that legal language. This was a question I thought was really good. How should I approach setting a deadline for design modifications? Because you originally send this contract out in one way and then they want changes. Like, do you charge extra for that or?
You know what? I loved that question. And I was trying to read all my terms and find everything. We definitely had that term in there. I'm not sure whether it has been removed or not, but our goal is that we're going to design this one time, and that if we have to redesign it, there is an additional fee. Changing, we do allow them to change as far as like additions and substitutions up to 3 weeks before, but then it says after that 3-week window, we may not be able to accommodate the request. Yeah. But like a full redesign of a wedding, I would charge them for that.
Yeah. Are there any terms that you feel are like non-negotiable in your contract that if someone were to give you pushback on it, is there anything that you think?
I mean, I really, really love the marketing term that allows me to bring a photographer, because this was said at a Chapel designer event and I just love it so much. One of our colleagues said, if you don't have a picture of it, it's like it didn't happen. I mean, it's so impossible to sit in a consultation and say, oh, I made this beautiful arch, or, oh yes, I have a beautiful peach Juliet bouquet that I made in the past. If you don't have a picture of it, it's as if it never happened. The only time I will bend on that is if, they really are an agent and they need, or just celebrity or something like that. That one is really important to me because I want to be able to take pictures of my work for social media. And also I need pictures of my work because of details, saving all of these recipes and having a good photograph of it for the future is really important to me. We have like a no abuse clause in here. That's really important to us, that there's going to be a standard of good behavior. Our delivery and setup fees are really important to us. I mean, they're pretty much, if it's in here, it's really important. I would actually say, all of them have a really valid reason for being in here.
So do you require exclusivity on an event, as you are the only one that will provide flowers? And the question is, how do you set the expectation of exclusivity before you are in too deep in the proposal process?
Okay, so that's the one that I noticed that I thought was missing from the contract. And my husband probably yanked it out because he didn't realize the importance of it. That was definitely in here. I'm going to look and see if it's, if it's been removed. That to me is very important. But again, like, how much do you want to fight with people? Like, it depends. All of these terms depend on your personal circumstances and how much you need to feed your children. Like, I am at a point in my life now where I think our reputation is good enough that if somebody puts something horrendous on the table, I really think I can validate that we really know what we're doing, and that's not a problem. And back in the day when we were struggling, which I guess everyone's actually struggling right now, I didn't care if somebody else was contributing because I needed that money so much to take care of the kids or do whatever I need to do. So it's just a matter of how you see your brand and how rigid you want to be. I'm pretty relaxed and I'm pretty chill as long as you don't abuse me. That is a clause we had in here. But I mean, I think it's just a matter of where you're at financially. And I think all of us right now are, because of what's happened, willing to get to work however we get to work, if we were to be honest, right?
Yeah, I had a circumstance happen to me many years ago now, but where I noticed that the bride had her aunt do all of these like horrendous things on the table. And I didn't want the photographer like tagging me as the person who created these. So that's the main reason for me, right, is just to save and salvage my brand image. But I feel like, you know, what do you do if you show up and it's like, wow, this is really, really terrible.
I act as if it's in there. I really believed it was there. And I might have just was going through this so quick I didn't see it. Normally during consultation, someone will disclose to me, oh, Aunt Mary wants to make the centerpieces, to which case I will say, oh, I'm sorry, you know, we do not allow that. And that's kind of a dead issue. It actually has to be in here somewhere because we had a client just in January who wanted to add additional, the planner decided she wanted to play florist, and we said we had a clause, so it must be in here still. I don't really, I think also because we have minimums in place, you know, most people only want to do those things when they're trying to save money. And to meet my minimum, you're going to pretty much want to spend that money having me cover everything. And you wouldn't want to, you know, have Aunt Mary make something ugly when you're spending, you know, several whatever with me. And our minimum is in here, and it's very clear, and it states that you cannot go below that minimum with your edits or changes. We also do not allow more than a 10% reduction pre-COVID. We're working with our clients now to kind of readjust that and see, you know, I'm taking each case as it comes, step by step, as far as the reductions that are going to come. I'm in a market right now where I haven't had any weddings, so I haven't had to deal with reductions or how I will actually perform. Everything has been put to the side, but I think we'll get to the COVID stuff here eventually. So what's the next question you have for me?
Well, inclement weather clause. So this is still on like venues. Should you have something in your contracts that you might not set something up if the weathers are bad, or if you'll be?
Yeah, we definitely have that. We have a clause that says that the setup of the location has to be predetermined by a certain time. And then once we build an installation, it cannot be moved. It says that we have the right to remove ourselves from a dangerous situation. Like, no, you're not going to insist that I make this metal hoopah in the middle of a thunderstorm. So we definitely have that clause in there, and that's a pretty important one.
Do you find that in those situations, and it probably hasn't happened all that often, but obviously it's there because it has happened in the past, do you find a way to repurpose those flowers? Does the client ask for a refund at that point, or is it just like it's a said and done deal, and you know, you don't make any changes or alterations to that?
Usually during the consultation, we talk about, okay, you've ordered a hoopah. What's going to happen to this if we have to move inside? Will it fit inside? What other options can we do? We do discuss that. All of those flowers that go for large scale installations usually can, you know, we're not making anything in advance. We're building it on site so they can, I'm pretty quick on my feet and I can offer them another alternative. We have a rain plan chosen pretty much for all of our customers long before we get to the horrible weather.
Yeah. So if an event runs over the designated end time, how do I approach setting a contract term specifying the protocols for strike under those circumstances? Like when an event ends an hour and a half after you have 6 people on site to break it down, do you have something in your clause that you're going to charge them so much per hour per person?
Yeah, we do. So I love this one so much. It says that the time has to be prearranged. And I was going to try and read it to you, but it's so hard to find them in 8 pages.
You know what I have, we have actually made like a lot of these clauses that if afterwards we're going to post a survey, and if anybody has or wants specific language that they can use, we can send you those terms. I know Holly's will be different than what we have, but if you generally want something like that clause.
This is what it says. If the strike end time of the event changes after contracting, clients should expect to pay above listed additional fees. Any extensions to the conclusion of the event, the night of the event, will be charged at $2.50 an hour, and a check payment made payable to Holly Chapel Flowers should be handed to our studio staff or your wedding planner on our arrival at the venue for breakdown. If payment is not collected, our staff will begin removing the floral decor prior to the conclusion of the event. So it's pretty much like saying straight up, if you are going to extend, you know that you're going to have to pay additional. It's in the contract. You tell the planner that, and then she goes to the clients. And we had to do this because, you know, everybody else was getting paid extra, and we're hanging out in the kitchen waiting for it to break down, and the venue's going to make more money, the planner's going to make more money, the band's going to make more money, and we're just like, hello. So it is in there, and this is one that we will absolutely act on. And if we don't get the check, we just start breaking down and go.
Yeah.
And it says we're going to, so we're completely within our rights to do that.
Do you ask your client for like a credit card authorization form for all these extra things? If they don't write you a check, do you just charge them? Do you invoice them?
Well, it says that we would expect a check.
Oh, I think she's, I don't know. Can you hear me? Is everybody hearing Holly?
No, Holly's frozen.
Frozen, but you are not frozen.
She's out there. Am I back?
Yeah, you're back, Corrine. We're just waiting on Holly now.
Okay. You know, modern day technology, this is what happens, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, this is something I think we've all experienced, but we always think it's good practice to have like a credit card authorization on form, just to kind of charge that client afterwards. But I know people get a lot of pushback, or they don't want to leave a bad taste in the client's mouth after. Looks like we lost her for a second. So feel free to write in any questions. I think she'll probably try to pop back on here. I think internet might be a little unstable, but you never know how these are going to go. Let me see. Let's see. Sorry, guys. We'll just pause this recording. We're going to edit this out.
It actually looks like Kim has her hand up. Kim, did you have a question?
I do. I'll be the filler.
Yeah, thanks, Kim. Fill us in.
So here's my question. I mean, I would love to see Holly's terms and conditions, and knowing that every state is completely different. But I feel like, and I've written mine and rewritten them, and Jennifer has written them and rewritten them. And I feel like I'm all over the board. It would just be so wonderful just to have kind of a format.
Yeah, we've really been working on that the last month here at Details, because we knew this was a big topic. And what we found is, like, when we first started Details, we never wanted to be like, you know, the attorney or so forth, but we put in just basic terms, anticipating that most people would fill in their own and, you know, with whatever their attorney said. But when we did this survey, we found that a lot of people were using just the basic terms that we provided without even adding to them. So that was really like an aha moment. So we'll definitely be sending out, especially, you know, we think it's great to have an industry standard. Like, I think if we all get on the same page and we all have a lot of the same terms, then there will not be as much pushback or any questions, because if that's just the way it is, like as an industry standard. So we'll be more than happy to share some of these clauses with you. But there she is again.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but yeah, thank you for the question, Kim. Holly, are you back?
Was that me or was that you?
Oh, I don't know. We were all here.
Oh, you went completely frozen, and I could see everyone else moving in their desks, and I was like, is that me or you? I don't know what happened. Sorry.
No, that's okay. It's modern technology. You know, everything happens. But
Alex calls it farm internet.
yeah, Kim had the question of wondering if we would be able to provide any like basic terms, and I let them know that this is something we've been really very proactive on right now at Details. So after this, in the next couple of weeks, we'll have those available for people if they should want to use some more generic terms written in present tense, so that really the great legal language. But again, disclaimer, we are not attorneys, and you
Right.
need to have everything reviewed with your attorney, because we don't want to be held liable. Do you have any rules with your clients about handling their personal items or possessions?
It says that we do not touch any of their things unless it has been prearranged and we charge a fee to do so. And of course, like you see this is happening, like the things that are going to come up are going to be the things that someone's been bruised before over. So like, yes, I mean, all floral designers have gone on a gig and all of a sudden some box of 800 candles shows up and we're supposed to be like helping unwrap them and take the stickers off of glass. That will never happen to me again, ever, ever, ever. That's all in there. So I can walk away. Now, the problem is, you know, all of us will have difficult decisions to make. Like, are you going to hold the line, and are you going to compromise a relationship with a planner? Or, you know, I mean, all of that stuff has to be considered. It's part of also why we like to man our own ship more and more. Or we're very, very careful about who we're working with, because people will take advantage of you and ask you to do things. And I mean, not to say anything derogatory about planners, but some planners will really, really, really take advantage of you with the hopes that you'll get to work with them more.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So do you have an artistic license clause in your contract terms that basically says that you're the primo decision maker when it comes to everything in regards to the event, and that by hiring you, they are entrusting you to make executive decisions?
No, we do have that for our lower price points. So they have to relinquish creative freedom for our, we used to call it from the garden or designer's choice, which means we are going to dictate everything, and we're going to only be using what we can acquire that fits on their budget. In regards to the overall high dollar luxury weddings, it does say that if substitutions need to be made, that we have the right to do that, but we will maintain the overall aesthetic that we promised. In our COVID clause, because obviously we can see that there is trouble coming in regards to flowers and sourcing, we did, you know, prepare them for that. And we could talk about that when we get to COVID land.
Okay. Do you, as far as the substitutions goes, do you let them know? I know a lot of florists write it in there that they'll let the client know if they need to make a substitution, which I kind of think is a mistake if you don't let them know. But in the event that something comes in bad, how do you handle it?
Did you tell Miss T?
It does not say that we will discuss that. It says that we will make a decision on their behalf if we have, I mean, and we will maintain their look. Now, I do prepare people because I know seasonality, and and that's very important. You have to understand that as a designer. If someone's asking me to do peonies in October, and I don't think it's likely, I'm going to put if available. I always, in the line item, the bridal bouquet will be made with, you know, white garden roses, peonies if available, so that I'm stating right there, every moment that I mention a flower that may not be available, that I'm, you know, preparing them for what could possibly happen.
Yeah. Do you
we actually have a couple of people with their hands up. I don't know if we're okay with taking a couple questions.
Sure.
Sure.
So first we have Melissa. If you want to go first, you can definitely unmute yourself there and then just ask your question.
Hi, everyone. Well, hello from cold Canada.
Oh,
Question for you. On the details, we have all of the terms and conditions, but for instance, we're still in our second lockdown. So we're dealing with clients that have postponed a second time. We use two softwares. I use Details for the event decor side of our business. I also have a private event space and a retail flower division. So for that, we toggle between a different software, and I won't call the name. Details is the best, I will say. But this other software gives the option to have more than one template. So for instance, we would give a typical client the one template that has our master, all of the things that Holly is talking about. Actually, I'm pleased to say I have a lot of that in my contracts currently. But now that we're dealing with the clients that are postponing again, we're having to send an email and say, hey, where are you at? Your wedding is coming up in a couple of months. We're still under lockdown. We're not going to be anywhere near 50 people, by the summer, the way things are looking. What would you like to do? Option one, you're going to postpone. Option two, you're canceling. We give you a credit. You can sell it or use it again in 24 months. If they choose an option to postpone or cancel, we cannot just send them back that main agreement. We need to create, for example, a new item. So with the other software, there's another template that we send out that, you're able to create. So I have a template that says,
just to interrupt you for a second, you can actually have multiple templates within Details. So you may want to meet with our team, because you can have as many templates as you want. You can even write additional templates. What's that?
So for instance, if we have the one main template in Details, and for this one client that's in Details, and now they're postponing for, let's say, next year, on that worksheet, we can go in and create a new proposal that has a new templates. That's not the same one. That would be an amendment.
Yes, you can add an addendum. Yep, it's under the financial section, event terms. You can load a new template, or you can add the term that you would like there. So you might want to check that out, or get with Brandy and set up a walkthrough. So
Brandy's the one that I deal with. So if you can connect with me on that, that'll be awesome.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to follow up with you, of course. I did also put that link to our support center article that kind of outlines what we call the event terms, which is where you're going to be able to make those event templates for your contract terms. So I'll also go ahead and just send you a follow-up email though as well after we're done.
Thank you, Brandy. Yeah. So there is multiple ways to do that within Details. We saw that as a need with COVID when that happened. Originally, when you guys first started, there was only one contract term, but then COVID happened and everybody was needing to add those different things. So that immediately shot to the top of our to-do list per se. And I'm really happy to say that's something you can do now, a few weeks after COVID struck. So Holly, what do you do about placing flowers on the cake? Is that something that your team does? Do you leave that to the cake baker? Everybody has different things about the toxic, level of flowers or this or that, or give us your lowdown on cake terms.
If anybody is panicked about the cake, they will mention it. And then I just tell them that we'll wire and tape. But I have shoved thousands of stems into a cakes all over my life, and no one has ever been sick to my knowledge because of it. But the way that we typically handle the cake is that we provide flowers for the cake baker, because it's their piece of art. And if they really would let somebody else touch it, they probably don't really care that much about their craft anyways. Unless it's prearranged that I will be designing it and we charge more for that. So we have a discussion about that. But the cake is typically, we're going to leave the flowers. And a lot of times the cake isn't even there when we're there. And so we'll just leave the bucket of loose blooms behind. But they are regular flowers. If somebody's squirrely about that, then we will provide organic flowers or edible flowers or paper flowers. But we, that all comes up before we get to the event.
Yeah, this is kind of maybe off subject, but I did have a circumstance happen where the bride refused to put flowers on the budget for the cake. And then we found the cake baker stealing flowers from our centerpieces, which was like a complete, I think, no, but it was made for a sticky situation. So, yeah,
That's
you know how that goes.
I mean, there are always going to be stories like that. I mean, you're dealing with the general public, and weird things are going to happen along the way that will all become a part of our book someday.
Yeah, right. Do you specify what happens to the flowers after the event in your contract?
That's an important one. Yes, we do. And this one came from, I mean, we stress this a lot because we had a really difficult client, and it's a long one. So we say that we are responsible for the removal of the flowers, and that if you want to take on that responsibility, then we are relinquishing that responsibility and you are accountable to the venue if the mess is not cleaned up. It states that if we are supposed to strike the event and give flowers to a mother or a wedding planner and there is no one there to, take over these flowers, then we will remove them and they will be thrown away. So we tell them very clearly that the flowers are going to be discarded and that they can't call us the next day asking for them. We provide them additional vessels if they need them for take home, and we charge additional money for those containers. We tell them that the flowers are all theirs, but it's up to them, to make a plan for them. And we also state that if the family is taking the flowers home, then they are taking the flowers home, and we are not helping Aunt Mary get them down to her car. All of that would be under, delivery, setup, and breakdown, and there would be an additional fee for that. We don't deliver them to another site without an additional fee. And so all of these rules are stated in the contract so that we're all really clear and we don't have any problems with that anymore. But once upon a time, my team knew that they always had to remove the flowers. It was a private residence, and they assumed the family would want the flowers, and they left the flowers in the tent. The wedding planner did not take the flowers down to the house, nor did she take the cake topper down to the house. And the next day, the flowers were gone, and they wanted their money back for the flowers. And I guess the caterer threw the flowers away because the caterer was last man standing, and they believed that they should leave the tent clean. And so they tried to make the caterer pay them for the cost of the flowers. And I told them that, that was ridiculous, that the flowers were used, and it was over 100 degrees that day. There was but that is where the terms came from.
Yeah, it's a lot of things you just learn, and then you need to add them in here. So how do you handle, do you have any terms about late payments? And do you terminate a client if they are late meeting your payment schedule?
We don't, but we won't order the flowers. And it says that we will not order the flowers. And if they have not paid us within 3 weeks is our drop dead date, then after that, it's cashiers or direct deposit into the bank. And we do not order the flowers until we have the money.
Yeah. Yeah.
It does, and it does say, if somebody is really, horrendous to us over this, that would come under that like abuse clause, and we could terminate.
Well, and that comes to my next question. When you have a bride or a mother of the bride that becomes increasingly difficult and unrealistic to work with, how do you end the contract with them?
Normally just not threatening, but offering that will make them toe the line and straighten up and fly right. Because then they realize, oh, she's serious about this and we're not going to have a florist. So I have offered to do it for people that I don't want to work with anymore. And I really hoped they would take me up on the offer, but every single one of them has decided to behave themselves. And quite ironically, on the day of the wedding, I watched them treat everyone else like crap, but they were good to me because they knew that I had set boundaries again.
Yeah. When you have a cancellation, do you give back funds?
I do.
I'm surprised by that. Yeah.
I'm not look, if they're just canceling because, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. But if, Mary calls me up crying because her groom has left her at the altar, look, I want to have we're an integrity brand. I want to have compassion. I want to have heart. I want there to be good juju out there in the universe. And honestly, it's about compassion. And I work every single solitary weekend. I used to work every solitary weekend. If I should be given a weekend off, I actually would be okay with it. But we only take 10% up, which I think is a lot. I mean, which may not be what everyone else does. 10% for me, if someone's in trouble, I can find the compassion to give that back to them. Now, if they're just, canceling to cancel, then I would just keep that retainer. That's not a problem. We intentionally only take 10% up though, so that our company is always in the clear. We are always financially stable, and I'm not living off of money I haven't earned. And that is why this company made it through COVID.
Yeah. And that's a good segue into COVID. What are some terms that you've added specifically because of COVID that you're going to keep even moving forward that you've learned, wow, I needed to have this in here?
Actually, I love my contract and I haven't had any problems. But a lot of that has to do with the way that I vet my clients and prepare and choose them. My contract has worked out just fine for me, again, because I only took 10% up, and I was able to change the dates for everyone. Anyone who wasn't willing to reschedule or couldn't reschedule for whatever reason was able to let go of that retainer, or one person actually decided to cancel their wedding. And I even offered them, 10% in value in flowers, but they didn't even take me up on it. Our COVID terms have been really, really lenient. I don't think that the consumer should bear the whole brunt of this. All of us are suffering and struggling. And for me, I felt, again, like compassion was the way to lead. For anyone that was blindsided, like we all were, we offered them the right to change without an additional fee. If they decided to change again after that, it would be a $750 fee. And our terms do say that because of, just sourcing and what is going to be obtainable, there may need to be changes to the contract in regards to either if you have to have those peonies, it might cost you more, or you're going to relinquish your control over the designs. I'll maintain your budget and you have to give me the right to make substitutions in your behalf. For anyone who is now wanting to change, it does say that they can reschedule if it has been mandated by the state or suggested by the CDC. We will do that one-time change for them for no additional charge. If they decide to do it on their own accord, we have the right to charge them the $750 or keep the 10% retainer. But really, we pretty much let everybody just kind of switch.
Yeah. And when people, maybe you had a massive event on the books and they've changed it, they're no longer doing 200 guests, they're only doing 20 guests, how do you allocate those funds and to work with them in their budget?
In the same way, we have anyone who reduced, we tried to work with them to hold on to as much of it as we possibly could. For the people that once we were in COVID and we knew COVID was happening, for people we were writing contracts out for the future, we told them they could reduce 30%. We let them go from 10% to 30%. But we're taking each case, as it comes based on the situation and the environment. If somebody who's going to get married out in a field, wants to reschedule, I'm going to have a little bit less grace with her than someone who wants to get married, who was scheduled to have a 500-person Indian wedding in Washington, D.C. She can't even get close to the vision she had. And so I'm going to treat her with more compassion and differently than someone else.
Yeah. Did you have a force majeure contract, a term in your contract pre-COVID?
We did. But we all have found out the force majeure does not, or it doesn't really cover pandemic, and it surely won't cover pandemic in the future. So,
Can you explain like kind of your thought on what the force majeure term is? And
force majeure to me is an act of God, or an act of terrorism, something that's completely out of our control. I honestly think a pandemic is completely out of our control, but that was not classically, like, that is not a part of a typical force majeure statement. Anybody can Google search and find a force majeure. Prior to COVID, that really wasn't a part of it. A force majeure has helped us in the middle of a snowstorm. We had all of our clients' flowers here, and they literally call it like snow apocalypse, and no one could get anywhere with the flowers, and we were not held liable or responsible for that. So force majeure is so standard and so typical, and we all should have one.
Yeah, and we found that only 52% of our clients that filled out our survey had one in their contract. So that's why we want to make sure that everybody knows this is probably something pretty standard that they should include.
Super, super old school, basic. I mean, that was like the first term and probably our main term for many, many years.
Do you allow your contracts to maybe say they hire it with you? Do you allow them to transfer it to another party should they not, since say they have a cancellation?
You mean give it to another family member?
Yeah, like maybe they just want to transfer like the whole thing, like they're no longer getting married, but their brother is. Would you allow anything like that to happen?
I think I would take that on a case-by-case basis. I am only enforcing those terms when somebody is awful. I mean, I really, really, really act with kindness towards our customers because I want our reputation to go on. I want them to recommend their friends and family. I only use these terms to protect myself when I'm being abused. That's really the heart of the company.
Yeah, I wanted to run through the top 10 clauses that we found that most everybody had, and then the top bottom that a lot of people didn't, that they may want to consider, if that's okay with you. They had how you want to pay, like form of payments. I know a lot of people don't accept credit cards, and they have that very specifically laid out in their contract.
We do not accept credit cards, so we have that term as well.
Okay. Substitutions, 80% of everybody made sure they had substitutions that they allowed, that they were in control of those.
Check.
69% had an artistic license, that they were the like top dog when it came to all the event decisions. 73%, so almost 3/4 of everybody had the photography and permitted uses clause. So I think that that was a good one. And I think that might be one that that would be a term that you would say is the most useful term in your contract, just allows you to go along with that. Termination by the client. So they have their specific terms on what they would and would not accept.
We have that also.
Reservation, retainer, and fees. So that was something pretty simple and spelled out. And like you said, it was 10%. We've seen everything from $500 down payment, $1,000 down, something just serious. And then most people have the final payment due 3 weeks prior. Rental items, how you handled items that were rented to you. And I know that's not a question that we had, but do you charge fees for unreturned vases? I imagine you would, or how you go about collecting on those things that are.
And we have a rental fee for anything that doesn't have flowers associated with it. So if you're just renting a couch, which we really actually don't rent things like that, but we do have props and hard goods, candles and things, those all have rentals. My centerpieces, that is associated with the price, the vessel comes back to me.
Okay. Setup, like of course you have to spell out how you're going to set up or what those extra charges will be. So if you are making changes.
We have very strong terms on setup, delivery, and breakdown.
But I think that's so important because if they're anticipating you to do a swap out or a change of the room or really, you know, something that really goes beyond like a normal setup and delivery or moving to 2 or 3 different places, you really need to let the client know beforehand how you're going to
ours scales and goes up. So if we're flipping a room, then it's going to go up. We also spell out very clearly that we're going to deliver in one fell swoop. And then if they have gaps of, you know, they all of a sudden the week of, oh, we want the flowers at the home for bridal portraits. And now there's this 4-hour gap. We don't do that. Like they have to tell us the schedule and we'll price it accordingly. And that has to be given to us no later than 2 months before.
Okay. Rescheduling the event. So that was something most everybody had included. And then labor and delivery, why you charge for labor, your certain percentage or what that might be. And then these were the top 10. I mean, we had 43 different clauses that we listed. So this is kind of the top of the pile and then the bottom of the pile. These are the bottom ones. So how they'll handle children and pets at weddings. Do you have any specific rules?
I don't have to worry about that.
Okay. Their hours of operation. So when they could get in touch with you and when you'd be available or how you'd respond to emails.
Right. We have a welcome letter that kind of tells them how we rock and roll. And so that kind of information is in there.
Referred vendors. So if you refer someone and that person does a terrible job, that you aren't responsible for that referral, which sounds odd, but we found some people that had that in there.
That's actually a really good clause. I think that would be more handy if you were a planner, but yes, that's cool.
Use of electrical like circuitry and what you will or will not do or be my
husband has that in there because he was an electrician, so he definitely had that in there.
Yeah, that how you handled the coronavirus. So only 7% of our customers have added a coronavirus term, which I thought was just wild with everything that's going on. Credit card authorization forms, like how you would take payments and that you would have to fill out a form for additional, and you accept a check at the end of the night, but a lot of people bill their client or just charge them for that. So I don't know, that's an iffy one for me. The cake flowers, how they'll handle cake flowers. A model release. So making them sign like a model release for using their face, which I never really understood because you can't get everybody that's at that event to sign.
Right.
So license.
I would think your marketing clause, like the right to use the images, I think that would cover you, but that's an interesting clause. I mean,
yeah.
You have 40 pages of terms if you do all this stuff.
No doubt. It was like 15 pages that we have available for people. If they want them, we have them. Licensed and insured. So do you carry different insurance? I was surprised that only 10% of the people have this as something I know at our events, we have to provide that proof of insurance wherever we go. So that's an extra fee. How you'll handle structures.
Yes, we have a hold harmless, and it says that these were created for decorative purposes. And if you choose to stand in one of our hookahs and arches in the middle of a thunderstorm, you're responsible for dying, not us. So yes, we have that in our contract as well.
Okay, good to know. And
because I wonder how many of these like are people that are students of ours, because my husband is very, very specific when we teach these contracts. So it cracks me up hearing some of these. But yeah,
we were surprised too. It was actually like it's been a really fun month, kind of, I mean, as fun as it can be reading legal language for days and days and days, but I thought it was very interesting. I think it will be very useful for a lot of people. And the last thing people had as in the bottom 10 was venue restrictions. And I'm thinking that has something to do with, let me see what it might be here.
We have that in our delivery and setup and breakdown. We do mention that some venues have restrictions, which may cause us to have to scale our delivery setup fee so that we're not, you know, I'm going to price certain venues differently than others because they don't have an elevator or they don't let us load in at the dock, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not sure if there's any other questions. That was all the questions I had. I know we covered a lot in an hour. I felt like it was speed dating, Holly, as far as like speed dating and contract terms. But
we do have a couple of questions, a couple of people that have their hand raised if we're open to have some questions here as we wrap up.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So Dareth, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, you were next.
Hi, I was curious if this is for Corrine. I find that, you know, some people kind of gloss over all the terms. I was curious if Details was going to put in like a little line where everyone could kind of initial, like, hey, I really know you've really read this, because that would be so beneficial. Because I just find that, you know, especially we have found during COVID, well, we'll go back to a bride and we'll say, hey, remember this was in your clause, and she's like, oh, I didn't really read it. And I'm just like, oh my God. So, I mean, I know that even if they initial, it's not guaranteeing that they have read it, but it's kind of more of almost an insurance, like, well, remember you initialed that. So that means you should have read it.
I think that's definitely a great suggestion. I know it's not on like the top of our roadmap right now. If you're really, really concerned about it, I would say print a copy, and when you meet with them, like have them initial that so you have that final version. But I can definitely put that in. I know I've heard it before. But do know that when they sign it, like when they sign that, they're stamping it with their like IP address, who they are, where they are. It's pretty much locked and loaded. So it's their responsibility to read all the terms. I know in my personal business, I made sure a point to go through all of the terms with them. So that was just a good thing to make sure that they understood. But and that might be part of your process too, that maybe you need to have a bit more conversation about those terms that you're specifically worried about them.
Yeah, I've never had a problem, but I've just always kind of anticipate a problem, you know? Yeah. And also I had one other thing, and this is maybe for everyone. I'm in California, I'm in San Diego. So in terms of, is there a rule, let me see, my partner wrote this note here. Is there a rule of law regarding cancellation fees? Is it regulated through the state law, or is there industry standards?
Well, again, prefacing that I'm not an attorney here, but you know, I don't think that there's any rules, but I do think that you can't be like obnoxious about the way that, or given the circumstances. So I think you'd probably be limited to, if you use the words non-refundable retainer, I feel like that is probably something that is very well understood. And if in the case of Holly, you know, she really works with those clients to sympathize and kind of know their different situations. So as long as I don't think if you're, you know, if it's days before the wedding and you've already ordered all the flowers and all that expense is outlaid, you can't be expected to return or kind of absorb their loss. So I feel like it's you have to come to a mutual agreement with your customer there.
And I would say, with the compassion I said I showed to clients, if I have the flowers already in the studio, then I might be able to give them something back on labor. But by that point, I have all the money. No flowers are coming to my house unless I have all the money. So then I'm in the situation where I can kind of control and make the decisions I need to make.
Yeah.
Got it. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Maybe looks like we have a couple more questions. I see Lewis here with his hand raised.
Yep.
Hey guys, how are you?
Hi.
Great. Oh, it looks like you muted yourself again.
What about now?
Oh, you're good now.
Good. Hello, everyone. A couple questions on Corrine first. I just printed up the terms pages from details since I started on with your platform, which I love. And to be honest with you, before COVID, I never even looked or really cared about payment terms and instructions. And recently, I'm a planner for a wedding next January, and I'm involved in planning every aspect of the event. And all these contracts came to the forefront, and the groom is a lawyer. So the first question is, are you going to send samples or extend samples for these pages for us to add into our contracts?
Yeah, we're gonna send you guys all a survey and thank you for like attending, and we'll list all the contract terms that we kind of have gathered over this last little bit and have things that we found that most people were talking about, and we'll be happy to send you those so you can check off the ones that are most interesting to you, and my team will send those to you. We also have written these in such a way that there's contract tokens. So I don't know if you guys are all using that, but that's where you can like, it will fill in like the event date on the contract, or it's just a certain way to like pull keywords from that. So we think that those are really good to use. So all the terms that we'll send you will be in a Word document, and you'll have to insert them yourself, which is basically like us not writing them or putting them in your system for you. You need to put all those terms in there yourself and decide what you want or what you don't want, or reword it.
But there will be a way for us to add on to these terms.
Oh yeah, you can do that now. Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. The next one of the contracts that I was dealing with the hotel, they had the Corona
David Austin.
clause and under force majeure under pandemic, they just added it into that clause. Would you advise to do that or do a separate clause? Holly or Corrine? They added the pandemic clause into the force majeure.
I've seen that happen a lot. People adding that words. I mean, obviously I would have it reviewed by your attorney if you're really worried about the legal language of how that needs to be, because different states have different reasons for being, you know, and what can go. So I feel like that would be specific to where you are, if that would be acceptable.
Okay. And I have a question for Holly real quick. Holly, why do you charge a $750 charge if they change the wedding date twice?
I'm going to allow them one change, and then if they change it again, I'm going to charge an additional fee.
Why?
Just because of the fact that it is more time for us to manage this. And quite frankly, everyone in my market was charging for the very first change.
Really?
So it is because some of these events are getting really extended. Now, I will tell you again, I have not enacted this, but it is in my contract to protect me, just so that people don't just keep pushing back and holding dates. I mean, we have one, for instance, that has now postponed a second time, and she's prime date June 5th and 6th or something, that very first weekend in June. I have a farm. I could have rented my farm to someone else, or I could have taken on another wedding. So at least I'm getting a little bit of something for that lost date. She doesn't have to change the date. She's chosen to, and it is costing our company money.
Okay. You're talking as far as of renting the proper another venue or property. That's a lot of them are doing that here. But as far as the flowers, I was wondering why it would be.
Because I've lost the chance to make income on that day.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like a prime sales date for Holly. So like when she moves that date off of there, it's like, wow, that's a huge income date for her.
So her wedding was so massive
Right.
that I did not want to take another wedding.
Okay, gotcha.
on. Now, if she had been a little tiny wedding and I could have taken on other events, I might have. But I mean, the loss of her wedding 2 times in a row now is like, it's pretty.
Right.
Yeah. I just wanted to say thank you, Holly. This has been really, really great, informative. We have loved talking with you. Hopefully everybody has learned something. And again, if you could all participate in the survey and let us know what you think. If there's any other hot topics that would be of interest to you, we would be happy to explore them. And again, it's been awesome and always a learning experience. Thank you for your time, Holly. Thank you everybody for joining in and for participating. And if you have any other questions about anything, we'll do our best to give you the best advice that we can. But again, disclaimer, we are not attorneys. We are here to help you decide how you want to run and operate your business. And thank you. So
Corinne, thank you so much for doing this and for creating such incredible software. Since I'm a pretty fanatic, I love all these terms. They're great. But mostly what I love is how beautiful my contracts are. And then I can convert all of these clients and then hit them with these terms. So it's
yeah,
awesome.
right.
Thank you so much, hon. It was awesome to be here with all of you. Good luck. I hope we have a successful season.
Yeah, thank you. Bravo.
Bye.
Thank you guys. Bye.